So, hi, it's Harriet at Feel Good Walk, your walking coach, and I'm really delighted to be here with a good friend of mine, Martha Chester, who is an experienced Kundalini yoga teacher and trainer. And she also knows a lot about meditation and relaxation. So, I'm really, really excited to talk to Martha. Before I do, I quickly want to run through what I get from walking. So some of you may already know that back in 2022, in October, I started a daily walking practice. And there was a very good reason behind this. I have suffered from a bad backache and recurring, incredibly painful sciatica for years now, mainly as a result of the fact that I have a very sedentary lifestyle. Well, not lifestyle, but work. So I work long hours and I sit at a desk. So I am sitting down a lot and I work from home. So I'm not even traveling to work. So I had this really bad kind of recurring back niggles and just a feeling of achiness and that stiffness and creakiness and that like oof when you sit down and oof when you stand up, your body's just not kind of working. And then I went on a hiking holiday to Morocco and we spent 5 days hiking in the mountains, and I came back and I felt amazing. I had no backache, no sciatica, but more than that, I felt incredibly alive. I felt confident, amazingly confident. I felt positive. I felt relaxed. I literally felt rejuvenated. I felt like I'd kind of lost 15 years or something, in a good way. And so I thought, well, I don't want to lose this feeling. So I'm going to walk every day. Even though I experienced my work life as being incredibly busy, I was like, I really have to prioritize my health and my well-being. I want to feel like this all the time. So I'm going to walk every day. And that's what I've done since October 2022. So that's 6 months. And in those 6 months, I've had no backache, I've had no sciatica, which is incredible. And but more than that, I've had these other benefits, like just incredible feelings of joy and wonder when I'm walking, and relaxation, because of course walking is slow. You literally have to slow down. And I take a lot of photos when I'm walking, so it becomes a very mindful practice too. So it's just been great for my peace of mind. And even times when I'm generally a fairly happy person, but I have had a couple of things happen in the last 6 months, and walking has been an amazing way for me to deal with like quite difficult personal circumstances. So I'm just really, really excited to hear what Martha has to say from her perspective about how we can use walking, this simple activity we've been doing since we were like one and a bit probably, how we can use this amazing activity to really nurture ourselves, I suppose, and really nurture our well-being and our relaxation and stuff like that, all that good stuff. So Martha, if I can hand over to you, and if you can maybe tell us a little bit about you and your work, that would be amazing.
Hi, Harriet. Thank you so much for having me on. It's inspiring me to listen to you talking about walking. I'm sitting here thinking, God, I do walk, but I need to get walking even more after listening to your magnetic talk. Um, and the benefits of walking are vast. And I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher and teacher trainer, and I run a lot of retreats for people to reconnect, rejuvenate, reduce stress, renew their bodies and their self concept. A lot of meditation retreats that I run, people are coming because they want to kind of rebirth themselves, or they want to deal with an issue that's maybe been holding them back for many years. And meditation allows us to reflect and move on from those things. And of course, on retreats, if you're sitting inside and meditating, especially in summer, there's just this feeling inside people that they want to be outside. It's easy to be inside when it's raining, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's cold and it's not inviting, and you're thankful of the sofa and the cozy chair. But when the weather starts springing, and like at the moment, spring is springing, your desire to want to be outside kind of awakens. And what's wonderful about Kundalini yoga and it's cross yogic. It's not just Kundalini yoga, but we have specific walking practices, which I'll share more with you. Is that we can meditate while we're walking, and we're with our eyes open, and when we're outside. So this is something that I started incorporating onto my retreats a long, long time ago, and now and because of that, it's incorporated onto my teacher trainings. So all the people that do their training with me will have a walking meditation experience that they can then go on to share with their students.
I want that. I love that idea about the self-concept.
Yeah.
Is that how you put it? Because I really feel that when you said that, I was like, I really feel since I've been walking every day, and I think that's what I felt when I came back from Morocco, my self-concept is changing.
Yeah.
It's, and I haven't, this is not something I've looked for. I haven't,
Yeah.
it's not even really something I've been thinking about. It's just something that's sort of growing within me. And
Exactly.
it's almost like, it's something like a physical confidence, or maybe it's an integration with mind and body, but it's kind of very deep, and I'm finding it interesting because it was unexpected, and I'm just
Yeah.
kind of letting it be.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know more about that
Why
walk
it works.
meditation. Well, because funnily enough, I was walking today, and it was a slightly boring walk because I wanted to do my walk, but I also had to do some shopping, and I was just going through town to an out of town store so I could do my walking and get to the store. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, that's a boring walk. So then I tend to listen to a podcast. So I had a really great podcast. So it's all I've got all these hacks for how you can walk when
Yeah.
you literally don't have the time, or it's
Yeah.
not going to be the greatest place to walk, or and one of my hacks is I've downloaded all the podcasts I love listening to but never had the time to, so I use my walking as a time to listen to these podcasts, and I learn
Mm.
a lot, so
Right.
I feel like I'm
Mm.
walking and working and learning as I
Yeah.
go. But what happened today was I was listening to the podcast but not listening because I was thinking about something completely different. So I was thinking, this is interesting. I'm listening to a podcast.
Mm.
I'm
But it's
thinking
become
about
background
something
noise.
else.
Yeah.
And yet I'm looking at what I'm looking at. So I was thinking about my mind and what my mind is actually doing while I'm walking.
Right.
And so the idea of being able to maybe meditate while I'm walking with my eyes open,
Mm.
that's a really interesting idea. So I'd love
Yeah.
to talk more about that.
So, I mean, there's lots of reasons why walking, when you described from coming back from this walking retreat that you went on, that you felt confident and relaxed and rejuvenated, and you had this new sense of joy. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, yeah, 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 yeah,
Right.
because energetically through our bodies, humans have evolved to walk. So we've got a very deep DNA longing that our body is built to walk. And we've become more and more sedentary because of, since the Industrial Revolution. So kind of physically in yoga we have our physical body, but then inside our physical body we have our energetic body. So I'm going to kind of flit between the kind of physical and the energetic, and I hope it makes sense.
Right.
Stop me if it starts to get too abstract. But physically, walking is called a cross movement. So a cross movement, actually, when you're walking, and it's interesting, when you're walking without shopping bags and without a shoulder bag on one shoulder. So
Yeah.
when you're properly walking, you need to either not have anything, or you need to have a bag that's balanced on both
Yeah.
sides, because your body should create a cross movement. So it's right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. And this movement has a very deep rocking sensation, which will
Mm.
rebuild neuron connections between your left and right hemispheres of your
Wow.
brain, which is part of this why people feel renewed after a walk. But
Oh,
also, this cross movement helps to calm your parasympathetic nervous system, and more importantly, your vagus nerve, so that you have a renewed concept of what's around you, because you can literally take it in. When your vagus nerve is stressed out, it's one of the longest nerves in the body. We could do a whole talk just about the vagus nerve, but I won't go there now. But it will tone your entire nervous system, including your vagus nerve. And if you imagine that your nervous system is collecting information all the time about where you are and what you're doing, and your peripheral nervous system is made up of your touch, your sound, your taste, your smell, and it feeds back all of that constantly. Your nervous system is just feeding back to itself, feeding back. Is everything fine? Do I need to be worried about anything going on? Any lions in the bushes? And your vagus nerve then collects that data and feeds it back to your brain. If your vagus nerve is really tense, you will feel overstimulated by information around you, and you'll have a feeling of being overwhelmed. When you walk, your vagus nerve will become toned. So it's not that it becomes flaccid and relaxes, but it's kind of like tuning a piano. It will
right.
it will find a tone that it's meant to have. And then as your peripheral nervous system feeds the information back to it, it can handle the information and it will allow you to process it. So suddenly you're like, oh my God, look at the trees and look at this. And you get a bigger range of what you can see and what you can
Mm.
process. So this kind of adds to the experience of physically being able to walk. Energetically, there's lots of kind of energy pads around our body that have lots of different names. Sometimes they're called chakras, sometimes meridian points, or um, um, yeah, these points that are through your body, they get stimulated while you're walking, but you have 2 points on each heel. So this is why it's important to know about what footwear you're wearing, and that you'll have a very different experience if you walk
Ah,
barefoot or are wearing some of these kind of shoes that act like you don't have shoes on, or
yeah.
whether you've got a big, thick, clomping boot on, or whether you're wearing a pair of stilettos. So this activation point on your heel is a point which initiates your intuition. So
Oh,
often when you're walking a lot, you will feel that you have kind of like a second vision. You
oh,
just feel more in tune with what's going on.
I have had that. I had this I mean, it was like I've never experienced anything like it. It was a long walk. It was like 17 miles. It was a long, long
Yeah.
walk.
Hmm.
And it was a gorgeous day. I was on the South Downs. Everything's good. But I came sort of down the hill into this sort of, I hadn't been there before. The sunlight was sort of filtering through. I literally felt like I'd gone onto a different plane. And
Yeah.
I didn't have the words for what it felt like, but it felt like, it's funny because I wrote a blog about it. And what I said was, if a dinosaur had lumbered out of the wood, I wouldn't have been surprised, because it felt
Yeah.
like I had gone out of time. And it
Yeah.
was, or if God had tapped me on the shoulder and said, oh, Harriet, you've died, I'd be like, ah, that's what it is. This is heaven. So it
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
most incredible, but literally I didn't have words for it because I'd never experienced it before. But I'm guessing that may have been what it was. I have very clunky boots, so maybe it takes 17 miles for me to get to that
To
point.
activate the point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the point will be activated more easily if you're barefoot, but of course, whatever walking boots you're on, it's that motion of having pressure on your heel,
It's
which
fascinating.
leads into really nicely this the technique of being able to do walking meditation, because it combines the movement. You can combine it with your breath, and you combine it with a mantra. So my suggestion, if you wanted to have an experience of
Yeah.
walking meditation, is you'd stop listening to the podcast and you would find a mantra, and it can be a mantra that's in a different language or a mantra that's in English, but it's just a rhythmic cycle of sound that repeats again and again and again. So you can coordinate your movement to it, and you can also use mudras. So as you're walking, you're activating these energy
Oh,
points on
right.
your fingers
Yeah.
whilst you breathe. So maybe in a really simple form would just be inhale on your left, exhale on your right.
Can you do that
And then
without touching your nose?
inhale when you step your left foot forward, exhale when you step your right
Oh,
foot
sorry. Right.
forward.
Okay. Yeah. Ah, got
Yeah,
it. Got it. Got it. Oh,
you can do
okay.
it without touching your nose, but it's quite an advanced practice.
So I
There's
inhale on one
always
foot.
somewhere to
Right.
go with it. So a really good kind of beginner's walking meditation, and you'd have to work it with your lung capacity, would be that you might inhale for 2 steps and then exhale for 2 steps, and then
Yes.
inhale for 2 steps, exhale for 2 steps, and you can
And
build
your
breath up.
mantra, do you say that in your head or do you say it out loud?
Exactly. Yep. So a
Okay.
really used mantra in Kundalini that's very tonifying for your mind and your mindset is Sat Nam, which means I vibrate truth. And so you would inhale Sat and exhale Nam. And so you've got this mixture of tools to bring you into a zone of zero or shunya, or yeah, merging with the infinite, which is what meditation does. And you'll find that your mind will, of course it will wander, it just means that you're human. A mind will want to wander, but any time you get pulled out of your walk by a bird or a bus or a horse or a bee or something, then you come back straight back into it, and you've got the rhythm.
And how long would you suggest, if someone wants to try this, and I'm definitely going to try it, by the way, that if someone wants to try this and they're new to it, kind of, should you set yourself a target of a length and then just try and make it longer, or how should you
Yeah,
do
so
that?
people often feel like that they're going to start meditating, they need to do it for hours, and
Yeah.
that they don't get an effect unless they've sat down for 2 hours and done a long, strong meditation. And actually, that needs to just be put away because it's untrue. Um, you can start with 5 minutes on. You
Right.
can decide a particular part of your walk that you think will be good, and you can just do it for that part. It takes your body and your breath, it takes around 8 to 11 minutes for your glandular system to change the hormone levels. So when you were talking about feeling relaxed, it for your nervous system to feed back to your master glands in your body, it's going to take it 11 minutes. We are not running at the same speed as your computer, and so your cortisol levels will start to go down after 11 minutes, which means that you might find it easier to do
Right.
your meditation after 10 minutes of walking,
Yes. That
because you're
that
kind of
definitely,
warmed up.
yeah, that definitely chimes with my experience of it's not so much if I'm walking first thing in the day, but if I'm walking in the middle of the day, it will take me, depending on how my day has been, it will take me a while to get out of the day and to get into
Yes.
the rhythm of the walk. And I
Yeah.
suppose that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
This is so fascinating, and I love the idea of toning the
The vagus.
yeah, the nervous, like sort of toning the nervous system. We always have this idea of like toning the body, but like kind of treating the nervous system
Mm.
as carefully as you might treat your body.
Yes.
And I like the way that you were saying how sorry, what was it called, the
Vagus nerve.
vagus nerve, that makes me unfortunately think of Las Vegas, which is probably like
And
the
that's all right, because actually, when it's tense, it will feel like you're in
feels
Las
like Las
Vegas.
Vegas,
You
right?
feel totally overstimulated and overwhelmed. So it's a really good simile.
So like the idea of the vagus, because I was thinking of toning as in terms of toning your body when you're talking about toning the vagus nerve, and then
Mm.
you said something about it finding its note or something. Um,
Yeah.
And
It's
I really,
perfect pitch.
it's perfect pitch, yeah, and I really like that because I'm a musician, and so I really notice the similarities between music and walking in
Yeah,
this in the rhythmic sense. There's this rhythm, and you the same thing like if you're writing a piece of music, or I'm this is what I find if I'm writing a piece of music or producing a piece of music and I'm walking, you're in this, you're
yeah,
so in this rhythm
yeah,
of it's and it's a very physical, but not just physical. I mean, the way you're talking about it, you have the understanding and the language to see how all of these things affect each other. But I think most of us in the West, we don't think like that. We don't have that learning. We just are like, we have these bodies, and then we have this brain, which is somehow up here.
yeah.
And
How to
sometimes you get
integrate
a
it.
knot in the stomach where you're like, oh, okay, so my emotions are connected to my brain. Or sometimes you feel a rush of, like if I'm excited, I know I kind of feel it come down in my tummy, and then it sort of comes up, and then it stops at my neck. I always notice that if I feel like,
Right.
oh, I'm really excited, it doesn't get to my, so you can
Yeah.
sort of, we, us normal sort of normal Westerners, you have a vague kind of appreciation that there is this link between our nervous system in our body, but it's not something that we are taught about, or it's not something that we really know how to develop. And I guess that's what yoga and meditation are bringing us. But even so, I mean, I've done a lot of yoga classes, which I suppose have, I mean, really good yoga classes. I would have said, by great teachers and everything, when you're focusing on the poses. But again, I haven't learnt from those teachers specifically how this is all linking to my nervous system,
Yeah.
and how long it might take my nervous system to settle down, and why
Right.
these poses,
Yeah. The
why we are
specifics
doing
behind
these
it.
poses.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that, well, and Kundalini yoga is very powerful, and there's a lot of teachings behind why these things make you feel good, and why is it that you can go for a walk and you can just walk around the block for 20 minutes, and when you get back, something's shifted in your mind, or you've got a different perspective on a problem or a situation or a conversation or maybe an argument. So there's practices that actually couples can do where they walk together and
oh,
they
that's nice.
synchronize their footsteps, but they don't talk. And you can synchronize your breath as a union, as a partnership, and
Oh,
you can start to process things that you're going through on a walk. So, instead of sitting down and having an intense conversation, you might say within a relationship, oh, well, let's go for a walk and we'll talk about it when we get back. So
yes.
things like walking in silence is also a really powerful thing to do with a friend or a companion.
Mm. Actually,
Because,
that's really interesting that you say that, because I generally walk by myself, but I do also sometimes walk with other people, and I love walking with other people. And I also find that when I'm walking with other people, we generally talk the whole time,
yes,
and it is
yes,
a great time to talk.
yeah,
Again, because you're doing your feet
yeah.
are taking that, and you're out, and
The
you're
friends,
away
and
from
you kind
your,
of catch up.
exactly, you're away from your
Yeah,
daily space, you're out of your space, you're kind of in a no space, and so it's a great place to talk. But for me, I always slightly regret the fact that I can't have a mindful walk when I'm with people. Like, I've taken people on walks that I think are really beautiful, and we haven't even barely looked at the scenery
yeah. So
because
a
we're
really
talking
nice
so
way to
much.
kind of manage that situation is with your partner or friend, whoever you're going to go with. You might say at the start of the walk, and I've done this sometimes, especially with a really good friend, and you're bursting and you don't know where to start talking and you haven't seen them for ages and you're like,
Yeah.
and you start the walk and it's just 100 miles an hour. And like you say, you don't take in the view or the sunset or the rain
Right.
or so you might say, why don't we walk to this point just in silence and just connect?
Yeah.
then from this point on, let's start the conversation.
Yes.
So, if it's a circular walk or a there and back walk, often the nice way, like up to a tour. I live on Dartmoor, so there's often a tour
Mm.
involved wherever I go
Yeah.
for a walk. And it
Yeah.
might be, let's walk to the tour in silence, and then we'll chat all the way back.
Yeah.
And
And I think that sort of suggesting that kind of, you could almost add that, let's try and get in sync with our steps. Let's try and breathe in and breathe out, just as a sort of, it could almost just be a game, but just like it's, like, let's see what happens. And just
yes,
that could be, I think that's a really, I've got my kids coming weekend after next, so might try that with them actually, and just see. Yeah, I think that would be a really interesting thing to try.
yeah,
um
it's useful with children. My children are 6 and 8, and actually not to talk on a walk. I don't tell them they can't talk, but they will often take their cues from me. And if I
mm,
don't ask them lots of questions and I don't kind of point things out, we'll just be quiet together. And
yeah,
often they will become much more quiet and they'll notice
yeah,
more things. And so you can kind of,
yeah,
as a parent, you can bring that sense of just deep listening,
yeah.
really.
I mean, my children are older, they're like 28 and 26, but it's very, I think that might bring is exactly what you just said, that deep listening,
Yeah.
because it's very easy, especially with three of you, and especially when you're family, there are those kind of relationship kind of patterns you get into. And I can imagine that just walking in silence might actually give everyone a chance just to, like you say, relax, not feel, you have to, like, I have to be anything as the mother, or they have to be anything as the children, but just to relax, be with each other in the walk and in nature, and then talk, and
And
then
then
see,
connect.
see what
And
there
when
is
you
to
do
say.
connect, you connect from such an authentic place
Yes.
and you connect from a very deep place. So you'll often find less needs to be said
Yeah.
because the listening is done on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I also want to touch back to this point that you made right at the beginning about how you noticed that your confidence increased
Yeah.
when now that you're walking really regularly. And it's probably, yes, it will be because you feel fitter and maybe your body is leaner and your circulation is much more effective. So you just have more energy. But there's another understanding in walking which is called our magnetic field. And this is, we are magnetic beings and we live on a magnetic planet with a North Pole and a South Pole. And the way that we put our feet on the planet and the way that we place our feet has a connection to our own magnetic force. And you can hook yourself up to an electrical monitor and you can read that we all have a charge. And walking outside in the air, yoga also works with your magnetic field. There's a reason that the angles of the postures are particular.
Oh, really?
60 degrees is a very sacred angle in yoga.
Oh, wow.
But also, as you're walking and your legs are moving forwards and back, and your arms are moving forward and back, you will be creating a 60-degree angle with your arm and your leg at a specific time. And this 60-degree angle works energetically on the body at increasing your magnetic field. So,
Oh,
physically, it's called your magnetic field. So, this will be for the scientists. Energetically, the magnetic field is known as the aura or your energy field around your body.
wow.
And when your energy field is strong, you have a strong projection. So, people will take you more seriously. You will take yourself more seriously. Your words will have more power, and that will always be feeding back into your sense of who you are.
That
And
is,
so,
oh, I just can't believe you said that, because you've literally kind of put the words into my mouth, because I literally feel like I take myself more seriously. It's
yeah,
like, excuse my language, but it's like I don't want to take any shit anymore. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
you believe in
Um,
who you are.
yeah, and it's like
Mm.
I was like, I'm not quite sure why I'm feeling like this at the moment, and because I didn't link it to my walking, but I've
Yeah,
really noticed with myself, I'm just not prepared. I
yeah,
want to say what is there for me. I don't mean in
yeah.
an aggressive way. I don't mean like that at
No.
all. But
No.
it's
But
like,
you're very, it's a very clear feeling. You kind of know what you stand for.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
So
this is all to do with your magnetic field.
that
And,
is
you know, we
fascinating.
can, if you want to learn more about this, we can do another talk on just the magnetic field alone. I mean, it could be like a 2 hour one, but the energetics of the magnetic field also hook into your energetically your heart and your lungs. So there's the physical side of it, but energetically, when you're looking at thoughts, processing emotions, processing grief, which is
Oh
through
yeah,
the lungs,
yeah,
that you will feel that when you start walking through this magnetic field, this rhythmic movement, which is why it's really important when you're walking not to, it's good not to be carrying shopping bags
yeah,
because
yeah,
you want
yeah,
to get that swing of your arms and
yeah,
feet at the same time. It's very, it's really like activating, and it will really stabilize your moods. So that kind of gives
yeah.
you a lot of trust in yourself because you're not high and then
Yes,
low, or confident and then not
sure.
confident, but you'll feel much more consistent
Yes.
as a being.
I that definitely reflects what I feel. And I also know it's kind of like walking is a place, if I do get out of balance, I know I can go for a walk and regain my balance. So it's almost like
Yes,
I have this place I can go whenever
yeah,
I want,
yeah.
and I will come, I literally know I will come back
Mm,
feeling rejuvenated, feeling back into balance. And
amazing.
so to have that um is amazing. And I just want to remind everyone, we all, that we have been walking. It's this basic
You're
thing
meant
that
to
we
walk.
do. And from what I mean, I've learned so much from you. And it's I mean, I'm already a keen walker, I'm already committed to walking every day, but now I'm like even more so. I'm like, I had no idea this is like
Isn't it amazing?
it's
Isn't the
so
body an
deep.
amazing thing?
I want this to be in schools. I want everyone to know this.
Yes,
It's like
yeah,
it's too good not to know. And
yeah,
when we've got things like petrol prices going up, the planet in crisis, it's like,
yeah,
can we just get back to walking? you
walking.
know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, amazing. So thanks so much,
Oh, you're so
Martha.
welcome.
I know that
It's
was
been a pleasure.
a very, very sort of brief skim of everything, that but even just that small amount is I mean, I
Yeah,
will have to sort of listen to this again and again and again to sort of, I'm like, wow, there was some, wow, I'm just like, it's
yeah, the
like a
pearls of
magnetic
wisdom.
field. Well, I'm going to be walking, I'm a magnetic field. it's
Yeah,
it's
you become a
brilliant.
force. You become a force. If
You
you
become
walk,
a
you become a
force,
force.
but
And
that's
the
how I
planet will
feel.
feel
Yeah,
it, but you will feel it when you're sitting then at your desk.
yeah, yeah,
So what you learn about yourself when you're walking then becomes the tools that you can put into place when you're not walking.
yes,
So
exactly,
it's about, taking it all out of the sphere that it's from and using it in another place.
exactly. So
Yeah.
before we wrap
Thank
up,
you so much
Martha,
for having me.
I'd love to, let people know how they can reach you, or how they can get in contact with you. Is there a link, or is there a link to something that you
Yeah,
can
I
share
can
with
give
us?
you a link to my website. I'm teaching and I'm offering retreats and trainings and meditation courses, and I've got a jam-packed calendar which I'm really
Brilliant.
excited about delivering this
Thanks.
year. So the best thing is just to visit my website,
Okay,
which is
that's
yeah,
amazing.
so I
So
can leave
I'll
that to you. I can put it in the links.
I'll add that link, and I'll also add a link to um my very brief and quick and easy, hopefully, guide to walking, Walk Your Way Wonderful. And it covers some of the benefits, but doesn't even touch on the benefits that Martha has been talking about. Some of the benefits of walking, but also addresses some of the blocks that stop people walking, which I have found predominantly to be time. People saying, I
Yeah,
don't have time, I want to walk, but I don't have time to walk. And the second one is weather. people not wanting to walk when it's raining and so and so. So I have walked all the way through the winter every single day, and I've absolutely, it's been my best winter ever. I've just loved it. So I've got my top hacks for sort of, how to actually keep to your commitment of walking every day.
Well, I
So
mean,
I'll put,
you're an amazing advert for walking because you look so radiant and healthy and vibrant. So
well, the thing is, what I find really interesting is so much, and what I can say is that everything that you've been telling us about chimes with my experience. So I know what you're saying is real because I
mm,
felt it without knowing what it was that I felt. I've
exactly,
experienced it without knowing the reason why I experienced it. I just knew it was because I was walking. But
yeah,
you've helped to sort of break down some of the things that are actually going on in my nervous system and in my body when I'm walking. And that's just so fascinating. And I think for me that it's not only will inspire my journey, but it's also inspired my wish to learn more about what is
yeah,
actually happening when I'm
yeah.
walking. So thank you so much for that, Martha. You've been
Oh, it's been a
brilliant. I've
pleasure.
loved talking to you.
Thank you, Harriet.